right. Well, friendly good mornings. Welcome to the April 1st Filecoin Plus governance call taking place. Let's take a look at the slides and the agenda that we have queued up for this. At a very high level, here's what we're going to cover. Quick check-in, April FDS, let you know about the dates, the times, and what to expect before Toronto. Then we'll talk about the DataCap refresh. Who are the new auditors that are joining? How are we working to get that refresh speed down below 2 weeks? And what should you do or expect if you see a DataCap refresh throttled? What are your next steps? We'll move into the experimental pathway. We talked a lot about this on the last call, making sure that everyone's aware, because this will be a great way for those of you wishing to bring a new automated or market-based system into the ecosystem without having the hurdle of having a fully functioning product on board. So we'll talk about how to apply, what the pathway is, and what are next steps. Then we'll check in on those applications that are doing manual diligence, see what the refresh times are, how you would onboard to the program, and just like the experimental way, how do we bring those new manual pathways that have existing clients and existing diligence already created. Last, an update for everybody is that we've refreshed the application, and this will apply to all allocators operating in the Filecoin Plus program. Make you aware what to expect, as well as some loose timelines that we're working towards to get that to you. We had 2 items that were added by the community. So Lendy Mai, I've got you on board if you want to look at the third DataCap refresh. And Max and Coin Summer Lab, you guys as well. Thanks for filling that out. So here we go. The agendas can always be requested in the governance section of the repo. I'll make one of these issues immediately after the call. So if there's a topic or something you want to review, dedicated time that we could put that on the schedule and help out however we need. For these calls taking place, today is April 1st. The next call will take place on April 15th. And I'd highly recommend, if you haven't done so, copy this calendar link and you can add it as a shared calendar in your view. And this is nice because if you plan on attending, you can just open up that calendar, see the time, see the meeting invites. Sometimes with the schedule changes, with time zones really worldwide, we try to keep it pinned to this 1600 and 0200 UTC. All right. Hey, last check-in on metrics. So over 2 weeks, we've seen 7 new clients come on board and 211 DataCap PIBs go out. That was to existing clients and new clients. The allocators that have been active are 70. So we've increased some of the inactives before they were sunset. And so we've onboarded 82, and of those approved, we've seen 70. So those allocators that have had no interactions over the past year, we've messaged them, let them knowing that they're going to be sunset and they're welcome to reapply. And there's also been quite a few allocators that didn't meet their standards and they were slowly throttled to the point where they've had their DataCap refresh cut out and we've been a retool or come back. So again, 70 active allocators distributing 211 pips. All right. Hey, if you didn't see this post in some of the other Slacks coming up, one of the lessons learned with these FDS, it takes a lot to fly all over the world and bring a community together in one place. So we're trying something new. Ahead of Toronto taking place, we're going to have a virtual session spread out over the course of 7 days, and you can see the schedule listed here. Great chance if you just want to tune in without watching the YouTube video and see it live, ask questions. These are the sessions that are taking place. If you want to register, it's free, it's open. The details are here in this link, as well as posted in the public channel in Slack under Fil Plus. All right, I'll pause. If you have any questions, feel free to put it into chat. Just some housekeeping things to make sure we're all lined up before we get into any governance updates. All right, seeing nothing in chat, I'll roll right along here for us. Governance update. So here's what's going on. First thing is DataCap Refresh, extending a warm welcome to Amin and Paulina. They are joining to serve as compliance auditors whose dedicated job is to look at these DataCap Refresh applications and perform that diligence audit after the community and after the watchdog has inputted. The goal of having them on board is to make that processing time less than 2 weeks. Right now for manual, we're averaging around 2 or 3, and some of the automated refreshes that have issues can go much, much longer. So these 2 roles is designed to facilitate that data, get this onboarded so that when you reach that 75 petabytes, or excuse me, 75% of diligence completed, we can be sure that you'll get that turnaround time within 2 weeks, working to bring that down as quickly as possible. So checking in on that 2 week goal, if you see this bar chart right here, what we're seeing is conversion rates. This is by the time that you have filed a refresh application to by the time that you get that DataCap refresh. We're driving them down. The highest this ever was around the October period, where some folks were having to wait around 40, 50 days. Again, the goal is that you're waiting less than 2 weeks as this comes through. So the steps we're taking on the back end is one, we set up that MetaAllocator pathway for manual, which means we no longer have to wait for the root key holder to sign, which is cut out 3 to 4 days on average. We standardize the template. So when you file that refresh, you know exactly what information to push out, as well as what would result in a delay from that. And number three is increasing the folks that are looking at these and performing that audit to make sure it's set up. That way it's not tied to just one individual, and we're waiting for that individual to have time to go through and provide that feedback. So please, we're looking forward to sharing these metrics. This is a big goal for us going forward, is to get this number down as quickly as possible. If you did submit a request for DataCap refresh and you received throttled, what that means is there was a key issue in the way that you were distributing your DataCap out. So rather than just cutting that pathway out of the program, the purpose of the throttle is to give you a reduced amount to demonstrate that you can correct those issues that were found in your last application. Failure to correct those issues on a throttled amount is subject to what those issues are. But if you are throttled multiple times or even a single time and we don't see an improvement, that can result in that pathway no longer receiving a DataCap refresh. Listed on the screen are the 5 most common ways that an application would receive a throttling. There's no diligence. We get a request and there's no record of who the client was or what the pathway was resulting in the DataCap. The second is the storage provider list. We were told it would be one list. When we get it back to verify, it's a completely different, all in one region, or all using VPNs, fill in the blanks, and so essentially not meeting those standards. The third is duplication. So there's no distribution, there's no CID, and it's just a duplicate set as we go through. And a main one is the retrievability. As we're onboarding this data, if it's open public data, it should be retrievable by Spark. As we've been looking at how this program improves, we went from having around a 0 to now averaging around 20, 25%. So that standard will continue to be made. So if you are onboarding open public data and it's not open and public data retrievable in Spark, it'll result in why is that happening? How can you address it? As your role as the allocator is to step in. And the last is just general compliance. We might see the same data being onboarded from multiple allocators. We might see a combination of the myriad. Again, the goal of the audits is to identify this issue as well as to provide feedback on how you can correct that. So if you ever have this throttling, this is your chance to correct those and come back. I'll pause and see if anybody has thoughts or any questions about the DataCap refresh new hires or throttling that you'd like to share. All right, all right, all right. Well, hey, let's talk about getting some new allocator onboarding pathways coming up. So this is pretty exciting. Essentially, what you have been able to do over the course of the year is submit an application. And you would do that by going to GitHub, filling out an issue, and then starting a new application that would then take you to Airtable. Airtable would collect a lot of the private information that you didn't want to make public, things like email or full names. And so what's great is when you file this application, you can then come in and then submit it. If you're curious about like a blog or steps, or you had any questions for your first time, Fiddle prepared a blog. It's linked right here that has their experiences on how to apply and what you should do as you file it forward. So with that, we have something set up called the experimental pathway. What this experimental pathway is designed to do is fix some of the lessons learned that we have. So if you take a look right now, feedback on the technical setup of these new organizations was a blocker. Essentially, if we received dozens and dozens of new pathways to design their own automated system, we had to provide very technical guidance on what was missing from the README, what was missing from the application itself, or how would it file. So what the solution to this is creating a pathway solely for the management of these new pathways being created. And that's what this experimental meta pathway is. So when you submit an RFA to become an allocator pathway, you can submit a brand new one, or you could submit under this experimental meta pathway. What it will do is it will grant you 1 petabyte of DC for your novel approach to deal making. And the goal is that you'll have a faster onboarding ramp to get started. So this is meant to encourage development, to encourage experimentation. It is not meant to stand up this experimental pathway and then just do the manual process as you go through it again. So again, this is not for manual. This is for creating your own new RFA that goes through it. When you're ready to apply, you should include some key details in your application. Things like how the experimental automated pathway will be used, what your schedule will be, all of the main basic ones that come through, and you'll submit it in the same way that you would. If you have already submitted an application like an MVP, then you'll come back and do it the same way. So I have an example here linked in the slide deck. It's the same process. You're applying under the experimental meta pathway allocator, and you could submit that back. Some of the 18 individuals, organizations that have expressed interest in onboarding in the past, but may have not had their pathway ready for MVP, are highly encouraged to develop on this pathway. So after this call, I'll link these 18 organizations, this slide deck, this video, and the link to that experimental pathway application. And those that might not have had a fully functioning MVP that are still ready to test those hypotheses and move forward. This is the perfect chance for you to do so. So with that, I'll pause and see if anybody'd like to dive into more detail on the experimental pathway, how to apply, what it's doing running, where to find any links on how to use it. All right. Well, hey, manual pathways. Let's make some time for you as well. When we kicked this V5 setup, we had 86 pathways that were onboarded and came onto the Fil Plus program. Of those, I think I showed that 70 have been active. So over the course, we've sunset 16 pathways, and these could be sunset for never onboarding DataCap or being throttled to a point where they didn't meet their own standards. And the lesson learned was that having this high number of manual pathways wasn't much of a value add. The time suck came from having to onboard these different pathways, make sure that all of their JSON files were accurate and reportable, and making sure that our public could find the pathways that they needed when they wanted to onboard the data. So the solution was we started sunsetting organizations that weren't using their data cap. We sunset organizations that didn't meet their own standards. And the impact was that we've now reduced that turnaround time for the active and participating manual pathways, where their DataCap refresh are now in the 4th, 5th, and sometimes 6th rounds of that. So that's very standard, very set up, and they're operating great. So what we like to do is extend that opportunity for some organizations that have submitted manual pathways and then been waiting to have a spot open that they could then demonstrate their value coming on. So how can some of these new applications submit and then be onboarded to the program? Well, we've talked previously, either in GitHub or on this call, that we're looking for demonstrated behavior, which means if you're an organization that would like to distribute DataCap to clients, you should either have existing clients or familiarity with the tools, the diligence, and the system to shepherd a client through. So if you've submitted a manual application over the past few months, you would have seen a comment left from me with what text is on the screen, the proposal that you should be able to bring a client through an additional pathway and shepherd them through the process, saying, hey, this is my client. I'm bringing them to Waterdrop Lab so that we could kind of see how this goes. And I'm going to make sure that their retrieval standard is 70% plus, that the bookkeeping is all accurate. And that way, when I receive DataCap, I've already demonstrated that I can do it. So any new manual pathway, we're going to come back and pull these applications, and we're looking for the manual pathways that have taken this step, that have demonstrated that they have the ability to bring a client through and that they have the ability to meet the standards in that. So again, the prioritization is still going to be, as far as a time perspective, on these new novel approaches, but we're opening this up for the manual pathways that have demonstrated this behavior and going forward. The goal is not to have 200 manual pathways and expand this. So we're really looking to bring this out and find the best of the best with the manual to appreciate and take down the ones that might have left the program. So the onboarding pathways that we've seen in the past that have filed are these 16th. So if you're on this list, you're going to get a GitHub message from me in the next day or so with the links to this slide, also encouraging you, hey, we're going to be opening this up. Please have everything ready to go. The applications that we're prioritizing to bring on board as new manual pathways are the ones that have brought a client through the process. So again, if you've submitted a manual application and it was kind of like a fire and forget, and we haven't seen anything from you, and then you come back, it might be a little bit late to say, hey, I can demonstrate this with clients. I've done this before. I know what I'm doing. So again, the prioritization is going to go to these organizations or organizations that have filed an application, shepherded a client through, and we've seen that go in. So anybody who is an existing allocator or wishing to join the program new, this is for you. In 2023, we had an application to join the program. And the lesson learned from that was that all of the answers were unstructured data, which meant if we asked for your allocation schedule, some people would say a PIB a week, some people would say a PIB every 7 days. And there was no way to kind of have a data entry form where we could really track this and make it easy, which led to slowdowns in audits, led to confusion about what the specific standards were for all allocator applications. So to correct that, we're refreshing this updated application for 2025 for the true market conditions. So if you filed an application to be an automated pathway in 2023, but all of your transactions for the last year and a half have been manual, this is your chance to update that application and say, we thought we would have the tooling ready, but at this point, we're still going to be manual and go through it. So every organization will be asked to complete this. All pathways will need to complete. So for the existing companies, organizations, this gives us a chance to verify that your allocation schedule, your Spark retrieval, your diligence contracts, your KYC, sometimes those change. We've seen people come and go. This is a blanket way to make sure that we're meeting that sanctions compliance across the board. So all pathways will need to complete. We shared the link to what this form will look like in its draft state to get feedback. It's linked here in this slide as well as in Slack. And once this goes live, I'll then share that in the Fil Plus channel, in the Fil Allocators channel as well. So those links will both be live, and I'll message each organization to make sure that you're tracking. So again, once this goes live, we'll give you ample time to complete. We're expecting this to launch in early April, and we'll take feedback on the best timeline. But once we get this rolled out, all organizations will need to complete. So that's it as far as governance updates, meetings, conferences, DataCap Refresh. Before I get to anything, I'd like to pause and see if anybody has any questions about that before we move on to some of the new community issues filed. All right. I'll tackle chat as we go through it. So Marta from Fiddle wrote that their experimental pathway is cited. They're going through it. The approval process is already ready for them to come. Wait. Yeah. Marta, feel free to unmute if you want to share any of that with anybody else, or I'll just leave it here in the comments if they want to kind of take a look, but looking forward to that.
Well, thank you, Carrie. No, I just wanted to say, because you were very kind to introduce the experimental allocator pathway as, something that is already happening, but I think for the MetaAllocator and are waiting now for a decision of the governance team. And I don't think that we really have exactly the intake form or something like that. So I wanted to just make sure that people are aware that it will take us a couple of days to set it up as soon as the pathway gets approved by the governance team. So right now we only have the application in, but I don't think we've got an approval from the governance team. So that's it.
Wonderful. Then I'm going to ping Galen after this call, see what's blocked on that for the approval and get that out the door. And then Marta, I see that you've tied in your application too. I just wanted to flag that for the public that everyone can see that you've got the Fiddle experimental pathway on board. So same process, and that'll be great.
Great. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Looking forward to that. All right. Hey, Daryl, I see your question here on the third refresh, issue 317 from LendyMy. Let's take a look where this stands. So I think what we're doing right now, I checked this on Monday just to kind of check in. Thank you providing the updates. I know this kind of went back and forth with the watchdog, so I appreciate you sharing just how we had a small snippet of the data cap that was going out to this client, and you were kind of representing like, no, that's like only partial of this large data set. I know that this is on Galen's radar right now for his diligence audit. It started 4 days ago. So that would have included Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday as we queue up for this. So expect to see an update sometime this week. If not, feel free to send me a ping in the Fil Allocators channel and I'll see what I could do to track down. But this should be right now in that governance review process with Galen, taking into account all the information you shared. So thank you for that additional context. And I'll look forward to like having Galen tie this. And I'll make a note too to DM so this is right on his radar.
Nice, thank you. We also sent in an email with regards to all the evidence that you need. I think you were included in the email as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Nice touch. Feel free to put it here. Anytime there's an email, if there's like anything private or anything you don't want to have in the GitHub, always included. But I again, thank you for sharing this publicly, and I'll ping Galen to see how this progresses. Mike, I see your comment from Meta Era. Would you mind leaving a comment with the link? That way I don't have to just kind of search while I'm screen sharing to pull it in. I forget that exact application number. I know that Meta Era had an issue with the back and forth. So if you share the link here in the chat, I'll pull it up and get you that exact update on what's going on with that path. And then Fiona, I see your comment on 314. Let's pull it up and see what we're looking at.
Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello, Kevin. Due to the internal personnel changes, the previous count next week is no longer associated with the Summer Labs and has been deactivated. We have created a new account specifically for management purpose. Please update this account as the officially Summer Labs Allocator account. Thank you for your support. I still have the control of the ledger. I don't need to change the singer address, just modify the GitHub account. Thank you for your support.
Oh, Fiona, wonderful. Thank you for coming. Please let me
Mhm.
know if it works. I went through and I updated the JSON and I also added this Fort Neo into the Slack channels. So Fort Neo should have access, the same one that Max had. So I've done this for both Coin Summer and I think it was Max that was open as well. Yeah, Coin
Mhm.
Summer Labs and Miner DAO. Those have been updated. Check those out. Let me know if it's working and I'll close them out. But those have all been merged and should be set.
Mhm. Thank you.
Hey, and thank you for filing it. Do I have your verbal that these are good to go? I'll close them if they are. I've just left the issues for tracking.
Yeah, you can connect in GetCube and Slack.
Wonderful. Hey, thanks for coming and yeah, that should be all set. Nebula Block, I see your comment in chat. You're asking that you're on the inactive list. Can we be removed from the list if we're still active? Yes, the goal is not to take quality organizations that are looking to do good and add value to the network. Nebula, I don't know if we have a chat going, pardon me for like morning brain. I'll check my Slacks if we have a thread already. I want to pull
Yeah,
your
we have a
numbers.
thread.
Okay. Yeah, sweet. I'm looking at it right here.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
Tie up. And the last message that I saw came through on Friday. Are you still having the blocker with the DataCap block, or has that been fixed for you and you're good to go?
I still blocked, but I asked a question in the Slack and the channel, and Will Scott is looking into it, I believe.
Oh, he's wonderful.
Mhm.
You're in good
Yeah.
hands. That'll take off. Then what I'm going to do is I'll follow up on that JSON file edit for Nebula block, and I'll make sure
Mhm.
it's not sunset. Do you happen to know how much data cap you've allocated so far, if any?
5 petabyte.
Okay. Yeah, you're all set then. Thanks for the flag. I'll make sure that you're no longer on that sunset list, and looking forward to getting you going. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. Apologize about this issue. I was personally on a leave for quite a long time. I didn't follow up this issue in time. But we are still actively involved in the DataCap authentication business. And recently we received several requests from customer who want to store data. So we're planning to start the process as soon as the pathway is done.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it. I'll leave it for Will to get that set up with the bot, and I'll take you off that sunset list.
Thank you so much.
All right. Mike, I see your question in chat, MetaAllocator workshops. Thanks for sharing this link. Let me orient to what's going on here. All right. So this is the one I think that we have a Slack message with some of the bad news. So essentially for everyone on the call, MetaAllocator has been around for a while. For some reason, somehow their application was deleted. So we can no longer pull up the application. Governance team doesn't have the ability to delete these in GitHub. Only the creator of the application has the ability to delete. Also, governance team does not have the ability to recreate that application. So, Mike, I apologize. Thanks for your communication as we go forward. The next steps that you're going to have to take is falling back into this onboarding resubmission. So I believe that your pathway is a manual pathway. Feel free to correct me in chat. Yeah, manual. So you're going to need to resubmit under this field when we open this up here in the coming days. Let me find that application. Yeah. So when we launch this application, you'll have to resubmit to come on board. Reference your past data caps that you've been awarded 2.5, 5 petabytes that you've shepherded clients through, but you're going to have to hold off on this refresh until we can verify the information. I apologize for this, but it comes down to like legal purposes with sanctions checks and KYC. Once that original application has been deleted, we've lost that record that's immutable, public verifiable. And so we'll have to redo it. So you're going to be in good timing. It's not like you have to wait a year. Once that new application form goes live, fill that out, reference that for MetaAllocator, and then we can get you distributing again. So thanks for your patience. And that'll be what will be the next steps for this one. Truth, right back at you. Maybe I just call out some folks that I just love to hear their voice. Lucas, I see you on the call. If there's anything on your mind, bud, here and happy to discuss.
No, all good. Yeah, I thought I'd join in because I think we're going through this refresh step for the first time. So this was helpful to just get a sense for what timelines currently look like and all of that. But no questions so far.
Wonderful. Well, I've been hearing a lot of exciting stuff coming for you guys. So looking forward to great things in 2025.
Me too.
All right. I think we've progressed through anything that might have been in chat or on the agenda for the call. I'll make one last forum update. Is there anything on anyone's mind that they'd like to discuss? The floor is yours. All right, then. Well, thank you so much for the time. The next call will be taking place at Pacific, 7 p.m. and UTC 0200 tomorrow. We'll put both of these on YouTube, and we're also going to be cutting these into really short segments so that rather than having to watch 30 minutes to get anything about the application, you'll be able to skip right to that small segment. Took a lot of work to get to that, so we're looking forward to sharing that with you in the coming days as well. Thank you again for all your time, everyone. We'll see you on Slack, GitHub, and the next call on April 15th. Hello, welcome back for the second call taking place on April 1st. Right now is 1900 Pacific, 0200 UTC. I'll share slides and we'll walk through what we have slated for this call. As always, just a quick update on the governance side of things. Plenty of time if there's anything you guys want to dive into, your applications, refresh, questions about the program, literally anything you want to bring up, your time. On the agenda, we're going to check in on the virtual FDS coming in on April. Make sure you have the registration link and you're aware of the courses that are offering. We'll check in on DataCap Refresh. What's going to happen to make the refresh time a lot faster for you on the back end? What are the steps for the 2 weeks turnaround? And also, what are we seeing that results in throttled actions for that? And what steps can you take as allocators to make sure that doesn't happen? We'll check in on experimental pathway, a new development pipeline coming for those of you who submitted an RFA request, how to apply, what to look for, and what to be ready, as well as manual pathways. I know this might impact some of you on the call. If you've turned in an application to onboard as a manual allocator, what next steps look like and what you can do to be ready for that. So with that, let's dive in. This is the call taking place April 1st. Every week we will have this agenda posted in GitHub. So if there's anything specific that you want to make sure gets addressed or call out, just leave a comment. It could be a link to your application, a link to your refresh, a specific question you want to see included in the agenda. Just leave a comment and I'll build it right in. The next call is going to be taking place on April 15th. And if you're curious to follow along, if you grab this link shared in Slack, in the GitHub comments, or shared here on the Zoom call, you can add this to your calendar and it will always pop up so you have it ready to go. On metrics check-in over the last 2 weeks, we had 7 new clients added, which resulted in 211 petabytes dispersed over those 7 clients and existing from 70 active allocators in the program now. So those of you that have come on board and been active, thank you for everything you do. Looking forward to great things as we come up on the next queue. All right. Hey, FDS. So there's going to be a full conference taking place in Toronto coming up. But some of the feedback was when we have these sessions, there's a lot of presentation and not always a lot of time for collaboration. So in hopes of incorporating that feedback, with this session, you'll see a little bit of both. There'll be the in-person taking place in Toronto. If you can't make that and you just want to see the presentations or be part of the discussion, that's what this virtual kickoff is designed to do. So here's all the sessions that are taking place from April 23rd to April 30th. Registration is free, so feel free to click on that link there at the bottom or in the slide deck, and you could register for any of those talks and participate and see what's going on before Toronto. All right. Hey, governance updates. DataCap Refresh. If you've turned in a DataCap application, you might have noticed that sometimes it gets processed a little quick and sometimes it could take a while. It just comes down to bandwidth on processing and putting it through the system. So to make that a little bit faster, there are now 2 more auditors that are coming on board to back up the governance process, Amin and Paulina. So you might see them in GitHub leaving you feedback on refresh applications. And their goal is to make sure that that DataCap refresh is happening quickly and scheduled so you can set your watch to it. And the goal is 2 weeks. So after you've turned in that application, within 2 weeks, the goal is that you could expect to receive that DataCap refresh after all audit has been processed. So this includes the community, Filecoin watchdog, any feedback you may have, and then the final audit by the governance. And so we've been working hard behind the scenes to make this faster. Things you might have noticed is manual processes are getting better and better, cutting out the root key holder and having that manual pathway, having a template. So there's a standard series of questions to fill out, and now having auditors on board. So again, the goal is having this by 2 weeks as soon as possible for you. If you notice you get feedback for throttling, this could be that 1 or more metrics in your refresh are not being met as the allocator. So currently Galen's been leaving that feedback. Now you'll see it from Galen, Paulina, or Amin, and it's pretty much giving advice on one of these 5 things that might be missing. The goal of getting more refresh data through a throttle is to give a pathway time to make corrections necessary so that they can get back to full or doubling. If a pathway is throttled 1 or more times and shows no improvements on some of the issues that are going, it can lead to removal from the program. So I pulled out the most common issues that I saw for refreshes not going through, and I put together a discussion 329. So if you're ever curious, why am I getting throttled? You'll see the feedback from Galen. And this is just to be on the lookout for things you can do to improve that to get you back to full strength. So ideally, when you're submitting these refresh, they're doubling the amounts to get you as much data cap as quickly as possible as it goes out. So issue 329, discussion just to flag for your radar if you have any questions about the throttling process. All right. Hey, new allocator applications. If you know or want to join the program, previously the way the applications worked, still carrying forward for everything except experimental, is you come to the governance GitHub page, and when you open this up, you can then make a new issue here. And when you make your new issue in the governance, it'll be an allocator application. We'll ask you questions about your organization, what you plan to do with the data cap, how you'll review it, and anything that's personal or sensitive, you'll get a link to an Airtable form. This is so you're not sharing your email or your first and last name out in the very public, and we can just make sure that we put you through the process. If you have any questions, Fiddle prepared a blog on their experience, really helpful if you want to open this up and you could take a look at what the steps are. For those of you that have responded to the RFA, request for allocators, the program is looking for more automated tooling so that we move away from always having this manual check for clients to having things like market or automated pathways. That's what the experimental is meant to do. So the lesson learned from the last year of running this program was that if you are trying to create a brand new product, it takes time and it takes iteration. It also takes feedback. And frankly, we're in the governance team not in the best place to give you very technical feedback on what to do to make that pipeline work. So what the goal of this experimental pathway is that you can have a much faster bring to market for your development while you're working on the MVP. So it doesn't have to be completely finalized, but it can be showing that development to get forward on it. So this application's coming soon. We talked about it in the last call. We're talking about it again. And this experimental allocator will give you 1 petabyte of data cap that you can then work with. So the goal is a much faster on-ramp for new organizations wishing to participate. And the goal is to encourage more development. It's a shortcut to the data cap so you could work on it. It's not meant to be 1 petabyte for testing something with manual reviews. It's meant to be, I have a client, we'd like to test this out and see how this pricing works, or this model works, or this website works. And the faucet 50 TIBs just isn't enough for us to do that properly. This is for you. So you'll see this MetaAllocator proposal in issue 313. If I had to pull out one section to make you aware of, it would be this: the description of the experiment intended. So when you file this application, you'll spell out what you're going to be building with that automated pathway. You'll talk about the same things: the schedule that you give the data cap out, the diligence this tooling will take, the results, the definition of success, how your retrievals will look. Same exact thing as the other applications. But this is going to make it, again, a lot faster for those of you wishing to bring something to market to actually do so in the program. So organizations that have submitted in the past, these 18 that are right here, I closed these out just waiting for update from you, just so they didn't linger in the GitHub. These 18 applications had filed to become an automated market, but they didn't have an MVP yet. So we couldn't onboard them because there was no way to verify the tooling. Experimental solves that. So if you're on this list or you submitted an application and you would like to do this, again, if you're looking to bring tooling, when this experimental goes live, right and ready. We'll post that in Slack. We'll highlight it on the call. And I'll make sure I leave a comment on each one of these and reopen them if you'd like to now file for that experimental 1 PIB to get started. So again, we'll be posting the instructions in early April. We'll follow with a similar format on how to onboard and collect all the information if we need. It'll be very similar to past formats where we're making sure that you've defined what your standards are and how you could be held to disperse that, and more specific applications to come once that goes live. So looking forward to this. This will be great. Looking forward to seeing development as we come on board. And I'll pause to see if any of you in chat, comments, or just want to raise a hand, have any questions on submitting an experimental application here in the coming days. Rock. I'll skip that. Feel free to come back if we need anything at all. Hey, manual pathways. Same update. We had 70 plus manual pathways in the program over the last year. It took a lot. We had to onboard the JSONs, get everything set from a technical standpoint, review the audits, make sure the comms are all set. And in the process, juggling 70 orgs is a lot of overhead to come through. So the lesson learned in this one is more is not necessarily best for what's the program. So what we've been doing is sunsetting organizations that have not used their data cap. And we've also been removing organizations that have been using their data cap ineffectively. No retrievals, no diligence, no bookkeeping, not meeting their standard. And therefore, we've opened up some of those bandwidth slots that have been currently used. So as a result, what we're looking at is onboarding some new manual pathways that can bring some more clients to market. The onboarding that we're going to be doing for these manual pathways must have some type of weight, which means if we get an application from an organization that has no reputational standing, we have no historical working relationship in the Filecoin Plus community, we haven't seen you bring clients to market, that's not going to be someone that we're prioritizing time to bring on. We're really looking for the applications and the organizations that are looking to really shepherd their clients. So if you've submitted a manual application in the last year, you might have seen a comment left from me saying, hey, demonstrate your ability to bring a client onto the Filecoin network and steward the DataCap distribution of that client. Demonstrate this by bringing them through an existing allocator. Leave your comments, leave your names, leave all the bookkeeping, make sure that they're meeting the SPs and retrieval ratings. And this way, when we come to onboard manual pathways, you've already demonstrated that you can meet that. So the time is now. If you've done that, we'll be looking at these ones first. In the coming weeks, start to onboard these new manual applications. So again, if you're on this list and you've turned in an application for a manual pathway, the first thing I'll be looking at is, did you onboard another client through an existing allocator? And did you keep the standards that you'd set in your application? Why or why not? And then coming back. So if you've already submitted an application, no need to resubmit. We'll pull from that. Applications that have verified clients, meaning they took someone through an existing allocator and met their standards, will be prioritized. And we'll be looking at the standards in your application to make sure that it matches what you said you would be doing. So again, if you're on this list, I'll be opening these back up and looking forward to getting some new clients and some new pathways, whatever we can do to help out. So I'll pause, check chat, and see if you guys have any questions on the experimental, the refresh, or the new pathways for manual.
Hey, Kevin. If someone is already applied for
Jimmy,
manual,
I see your lips moving, but I don't hear you. Wondering if that's just me or get you back.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Jimmy, I could hear you now. Whatever it was, it must have been me. I'm so sorry. I'm glad you're here. Go ahead, bud.
Okay, yeah. If some organizations have already applied for manual allocate, how could they change it to automatic allocate?
Hey, fabulous question. You'll need to submit a new application.
Okay.
So in the coming days, we'll post that.
Okay. Shall we close the manual application?
It's up to you. You're welcome to submit
Okay.
both applications. There are some organizations that have an automated component and a manual component. I'll leave that up to you. If you'd like to pursue both, love to have it. If you want to close it, you can.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Great question. All right. Hey, last update I have for you guys. If you're already running a pathway or you're getting ready to apply to run one, we're going to be having an updated application. And the reason for this is when we made the first application back in 2023, a lot's changed in the program. So we need to verify, does anything change for you? So we see some organizations that might have a different schedule or different commitments to Spark retrieval ratings or a different way of tracking their diligence. This is a way that we can make that refresh as fast as possible and also keep in compliance with checks and KYC requirements. So all pathways will be required to update their standards and their application here in the coming weeks. We are finalizing this template. I have it linked here so you can have visibility on what we're working on. And the goal is to make it lightweight, but still able to capture that information. So again, we'll post this in Slack. I'll send this to all active allocators. And when you're applying, we'll just have a refreshed application form coming out in the coming weeks. So with that, that's all new update that I had from the governance side on the back end. I'm all yours for anything that you want to dive into, look at, or whatever I can do to help. Feel free to load in the chat, come off mute. I'm all yours.
Kevin, another question about the application update. Some friends told me that they choose the wrong application type. They should be choose to be a manual allocate, but they choose the marketing allocate. So will the update support the change of the allocator type?
The application itself, make sure I got that question right.
Yeah.
Is there one you can give me? I'll pull it up as an example. One in the governance.
I think Venus. I can share you the link. Let me check.
Yeah, if you share me the link, that might go a little bit faster. They'd be under the notary board, wouldn't they? This is probably the old one that was filed for Venus to become an allocator. Have you filed one recently with Venus for an RFA?
No, it has already been allocated.
Yes. Oh, so you're saying you're curious if you wanted to change Venus from being a market-based to a manual.
Right.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Yeah.
Yep. Then what you would do is when this new application launches, that's what you would update. Hey, we've been doing this for a year. I don't think we're going to build this market, but we would like to keep bringing our clients through manual. That's exactly what you would check.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey, Jimmy, 2 for 2 on your great questions, man. Thank you.
Okay.
Doris, I know that you had some questions on the data prep. Did you get everything you need, or is there anything that I could help run down for you as far as the issue that you had on the DataCap process? If anything comes up right here, it looks like Will Scott had jumped into that background thread that we had running in the Allocator channel for issue 125. So please let us know if there's anything more we can get. Johnny, I see you're on the call. Is there anything that I can get for Coffee Cloud or help run down for you guys?
I'm all right so far from now.
Oh, hey, it's good to see you.
Yeah,
All right.
everything good. All right.
Well, if anything changes or if everything's good, just love to have you on that. And same
All
call out IPFS, if there's anything I can get specifically for you guys. I'm not quite sure which organization you're with, but if you let me know, happy to bubble up anything or see what I could run down for you. All right. Hey, short and sweet. Well, Jimmy, I'm looking forward to seeing the new Venus. If you have any questions at all, feel free to ask me in the Allocator channel, the public Slack, or send me a DM. IPFS, Doris, Johnny, thanks for your time. Here as always, thanks for everything you do for the program.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right. Cheers, everyone.
Bye.